Okay, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a Neotec 600DX, not to be confused with the 500DX. The 500DX is a tri-res chassis, and this 600DX is a VGA only. If we look here on the front, you can see here it says NT600DX. On the side it says S600. So this is a 600DX, which is VGA only, and it has a label here that says NT600DX Neotec dead out of a big buck hunter. Well, it's not dead. The flyback is arcing. There is a piece of tape across the picture tube that came with this that says flyback arcing. And yes, the flyback is arcing, but that's kind of the least of our worries here. Here's the cable for the VGA. It connects to the neck board here, and it's VGA only. Now, when I say the least of our worries, this was missing several components. I didn't realize at the time that it's missing a crucial component that I'm not sure if it'll run without it. When I looked over this after receiving it, I noticed that there's a potentiometer up here that it was roasted, completely roasted. And the actual plastic cap had turned brown, and I tried to adjust it just to see if it was frozen in place, and the whole cap just broke in two pieces, and I think I've lost them over the last week or so. But the actual pot itself is centered right in the position of where it needs to be, so we're not really going to worry too much about it. And let me go over the pots here. So I found the schematic for this. Also, Q414, Q415, D408 is that one in there, and D409 were all missing. Q414, Q415, D408, D409, all four of those components were completely gone. Somebody removed them from the chassis, and I don't know what they did with them. They were gone. So I had to find the schematic online and was able to locate those parts, and I'll go over that in a moment and replace them. When I did that, I noticed an anomaly that I'm completely perplexed with. There's supposed to be a transformer right here, T403. See that right there? There's supposed to be a transformer there. And if I look at a picture online that I found, you can clearly see there's supposed to be a transformer right there. And if we look there, no transformer. And what's interesting is somebody has installed this capacitor across what looks like pins 2 and 3. I've got the schematic here. Here is Q414, Q415, the D408, and the D409. And you can see these two legs here are connected of the transistor, and they go to pin 1 of the transformer, T403, but there's no freaking transformer. And if we turn this over and look, bend this out of the way, these two legs of these two transformers come right here and go to this pad right there. There's nothing there. So how are these even connected to the circuit if there's no transformer installed? Someone's got this capacitor here across this leg of the transformer, or what's supposed to be there. And then the other side has this capacitor, this poly cap in there. So I don't know if this was done on purpose or what. And when I was looking at that, I noticed that this leg of this header pin is completely corroded. We'll have to fix that up so to get the corrosion off of there. But the HOT tests good. But this circuit up here is for horizontal centering. This is VR401, and that is for horizontal center. So it's not really crucial because we can adjust the centering in the menu, but that's for our horizontal center. This whole circuit here, 414, 415, and this whole circuit all here is for our horizontal centering. So I'm not sure really how crucial that circuit is, but obviously it's something. There's supposed to be a transformer there, and someone did this mod. I don't know if that took the transformer necessity away or negated the whole centering circuit. I'm baffled, but that being the least of our worries, the flyback is arcing. And actually, let me get to that in a moment. Let me go over these parts in case anyone has this problem in the future. I'll post the link for the schematic down in the description, but Q414 here is an NPN 160 volt 1.5 amp TO126 package, and it's 2SD669 Alpha Charlie. And I could not find an exact replacement, but what I did find was this one. This is a TTC004BQ-ND, and it is a NPN 160 volt 1.5 amp TO126. And if we look here, NPN 160 volt 1.5 amp TO126. Q415 is a PNP 160 volt 1.5 amp and a B649 Alpha Charlie. I couldn't find any of those either, but again, it cross references to this TT Alpha 004BQ&D and PNP 160 volt 1.5 amp TO126. PNP 160 volt 1.5 amp and it's TO126. So these are the two replacements. One is TTA004BQ&D. The other is TTC004BQ&D. So these are the replacements for Q414 and Q415 if you're ever in need of those in the future, if you work on one of these yourself. And the replacement for D408 and D409 is a 1 in 4006 delta. Basically, well, G. 1 in 4006 G. So 1 in 4006 is a replacement for our D408 and D409. So that's what those are. I got those installed because those were missing completely. That's when I discovered, after tracing out the traces to make sure all the connections were good, I'm missing this stupid transistor. I'm sorry, transformer. Missing the stupid transformer there. I'm not going to be able to find one of those unless I find one of these as a parts board. I can almost guarantee you. But a little bit more information here. So this was the horizontal centering pot, VR401. Over here is VR602. Let me zoom out, actually. So VR401, horizontal center. VR602 is our ABL. And I always forget what that is. If someone knows what ABL is off the top of their head, put it down below in the comments. But that's our ABL adjustment. VR101 down here is our B plus adjustment. And VR601 right here is our high voltage adjustment. Now, by high voltage adjustment versus B plus adjustment, this is a pot that will actually allow us to control how much high voltage is going out of the flyback to the picture tube. So this is set to the dead center, so we'll leave it there. And that's about all. This big massive chip here handles all of our video input, our horizontal sync, video sync, all of our inputs. It handles the on-screen display, and it handles the inputs from our remote board. This is a digital one, just like the digital monitors and all that. And of course our power supply here with our switch mode power supply section and our chip and our MOSFET and all that jazz and normal you see with your switch mode power supply. Easy for me to say. And I give everything else a look over. There's no other missing components. There's no burn marks. There's no scorching. It's in really good shape other than those 4 missing components over here and our missing transformer. And you can see that there's a capacitor here in that area as well as that poly cap. I don't know what the purpose of that is. There's been some rework here on U104. And I don't know the idea behind that, but I tested it. It tests good. It doesn't test shorted or anything. So our main culprit here now is we need to first, I guess, I want to clean off that corroded header pin here for our horizontal. And yeah, I filmed all this other work with replacing all this, and when I hit the dead end of missing that transformer, I'm like, you know what? Let me go spend a couple of hours and try and find one online. And I did. I spent about an hour and 10 minutes trying to find one online, and it's just so generic that, you know, I looked at other Neotec chassis I have on hand, and there's none of them that have that transformer or equivalent. And the part number of that transformer is, well, I might have to actually pull this header pin out, but it's not going to matter. I guess I'll worry about it if we actually get it working. But the part number of that transformer for T403 is, it just says F17B 170UH. That is just the type, but the actual part number is, no, I'm sorry, yeah, T403. Here, I'm sorry, I was one down. F17B-EI25. That's just the layout and the, like the number of windings and the footprint and all that, but the actual part number is 36 Golf 0-0040. I couldn't find anything directly off of that part number. So and obviously I think someone has modified this, because I mean, they wouldn't, if they took the transformer out to steal it or whatever, they wouldn't have gone to the trouble of putting this capacitor on the top and the bottom. So I'm mystified as to what that is. But if we actually trace this out on these Q414 and Q415, I don't think I did that. You can see here that if these two points here for these two transistors are tied together, and they run to this point here for T403, but there's no transformer there. It's just a dead end. There's nothing here. I don't understand how that works. Then these two are tied together, and they run to our horizontal center pot. Right there. There's our pot. So I don't know. I'm not really going to worry too much about it, because I just want to get this thing working first. If it works without the horizontal centering circuit in circuit, then it's not a big deal, because we don't really need that, because we can adjust our horizontal position in the menu if this works the same as any other digital monitor. So I'm just mystified with that. So I'm not going to bother trying to recap this or do anything with it until we're able to get it at least to turn on and do something. So okay, now to the main event here. Our flyback is arcing because the little support piece here broke off the top of the flyback from mishandlement or something, and it's broken off of there, and it's leaking high voltage right out of here, just directly out of there. So I'm going to take my anode cap here and put it in a glass jar. It's an old school trick, and I have an old 1980 Pac-Man cup here, and we're going to put that in there. Now I'm going to zoom in, and you can see exactly what's happening here. I'm going to give this thing some power. And normally you would never want to fire up a chassis on the bench with the high voltage section energized, or in other words, with the HOT in the circuit. But if you do this old school trick of the anode cup in a glass jar, you can do it just for some quick testing. So if we turn this on here, you're going to hear some clicking and some sizzling, and you'll start seeing high voltage leak directly out of the flyback here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there it goes. So as soon as the horizontal section kicks in, snap, done. So there's a couple options here. We can try to fix this by sanding it down with some Scotch-Brite and roughing up the plastic and just injecting some 2-part epoxy all around here, and that would likely fix the problem. But I want to try a little experiment here. I have an MRCFT-252 flyback, and the footprint is identical, and it should work as a replacement. Now, I did some research, and I can't find a direct replacement for this flyback. So I am going to install this -252 flyback that'll work on, the 27-inch Neotecs, the 2700, 2701, 2702. This is a 27-inch. I'm 99.87652% sure that this will be a direct replacement, and it'll fix this to where we can at least test it and see what it's doing. All right, so let's get the fan on here and get this puppy out of here. So if you look here, it appears to be a dual focus flyback, but it's not. You see the other focus wire does nothing. So, and then the neck board here, it's only got a single focus connection. And that's just this one here. So it's not a dual focus, it's just the flyback case. They used a dual focus case, but it's not actually a dual focus flyback. So at least we know our power supply works, and our horizontal section fires up, because if our HOT was faulty or something is wrong in our horizontal circuit, the flyback wouldn't even attempt to energize, and we obviously saw it tries to energize. So we're good there. Now if we can swap out this flyback and it fires up and works, I don't know if it's going to work completely because of the missing transformer, but someone's done a mod here. Maybe it will. Maybe we're going to have to jumper this, but it's the transformer. Obviously, looking at the schematic, it's a 12-volt transformer. So I don't understand the logic behind removing it. That little capacitor is installed across these 2 points right there, and then this goes to here for this T402, but there's no connection to the output of these transistors. Maybe it only needs to be on this side. If that's so, why would there be a transformer? This could be a factory mod for all I know. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Let's get the flyback changed and then at least put it on a picture tube and see what it does. So that's going to be what we're going to do first, because I could be barking up the wrong tree or spending a lot of time trying to figure out something that doesn't need to be fixed, all that kind of stuff. So I am certain, oh, stupid iron went to sleep while I was doing all this stuff. So I gotta wait here for it to heat back up. And then I'm sure people are screaming, why don't you have a desoldering station? Well, I've mentioned before that I hate them. Hate them with a passion. They work great until they clog up, and then you can never use them again. I've gone through, I think, 3 of them, and I finally decided on the 3rd one that I'm done with desoldering stations. I mean, you try and use it, then it clogs up in the gun, and you can't use the cleaner, and I don't like them. I'll spend the money for the braid. I just prefer the braid. I don't have to deal with the headache of trying to unclog the stupid thing and clean it, and then the vacuum quits working, or the little pad that provides the vacuum goes bad, and you got to replace those. It's just I'll just stick with my braid and not worry about it. It takes a bit longer than using the desoldering station, but not that much longer. You're talking like 2 minutes versus 1 minute. I'm not going to sweat that. I don't imagine I'll be on my deathbed and they go, "You got 5 minutes left to live, sir," and I'm like, "Oh, if only I'd have used that desoldering station, I'd have 10 minutes left to live." You know how it goes. Or hell, maybe you don't. I don't know. And it should be these 2 here for the ground. Our 2 ground pins. And I think that got it. See how quick and easy that was? We didn't even need a desoldering station. So this should come out here, unless no, it's still attached somehow, some way. It keeps coming up with funky ass hits like every single day. Maybe it's these 2. Well, let me desolder those 2. If it's those 2, I'm not sure my brilliant plan here is going to work. Although, well, yeah, there are 2 different traces and pads here. Although it looks like nothing's connected to them. Well, yeah, that resistor is, but there's... Okay, so yeah, there are 4 pins there. If they're all connected together, then I can just add some jumpers. So the meter is on continuity mode. They're not connected together. I don't even know what these are. These should be the ground pins, because see how there's 2 ground pins here? And I'm not even sure if those will line up. I'll have to consult the schematic and see. Yeah, let me consult the schematic and see if I can get this some type of situation where I can work with this. If not, then we're going to have to probably try and just fix this, because what you can do is we can actually just scuff this all up with some Scotch-Brite and then inject some 2-part epoxy down inside and around here, and I mean that should fix this to where it won't leak anymore. But the problem is, once you start having things like this happen, well, this was caused by this broken piece. I mean, it's not like it's not like a crack down the side. It's a direct result of this thing being broken. And I was going to say, if you have a different circumstance where, let's say, it's arcing out the side here, once that starts happening, you can patch it doing the same thing, but it's just going to come out somewhere else because it's too thin. It's weakened itself. So in this case, we might be able to solve this one. But let me look at the schematic and see if I can make this work, determine what these other pins are, and I'll come right back. All right, well, nope, I'm not going to be able to use that flyback because there are a little transformer inside the flyback here for these pins to connect various components. So you'll look here and you'll see that there's nothing, there's no components here on any of this trace. There's no components there, so you'd think that nothing needs to be tied to this. But inside the flyback, there's actually a winding that connects these two that runs over here for these components over here. Same thing here. There's no components attached to any of this here. However, there are components down here, like a capacitor and whatnot, that would have no connection to the flyback here. And they're inside the flyback. There's a winding that connects these two. So you have to use this flyback. There's no way I can make it work with the other one. The part number on this one is, well, I guess 3410-0240. I'm not sure what the rest of this stuff is, but yeah, we have to use this one. So I've got the Dremel here. What we're going to do with the Dremel is, I was originally just going to use some Scotch-Brite, but I think I want to get down into the nooks and crannies if I can here on this and try and, we got to rough up this whole area. And then I got the 2-part epoxy here, just some quick weld. I've used it before. I got to get the crust out of here, redo it, but quick setting epoxy. And we'll see if we can fix this. I'm gonna disconnect this and put this out of the way. All right, so I'm going to turn this on. We're gonna go through here and try and rough all this up and make it able to receive the epoxy and see how this works. Okay, I think that'll work. Now the reason we do this is because we want to give the epoxy something to stick to. And you can see here where the high voltage is coming out. Right there. That's where it's coming out. So yeah, we need to apply sealer all around here and then make sure we get some down in there, and then that should solve our issue. Oh, sorry about that. I wanted to take a thumbnail there. Anyway, so yeah, we have to rough that up so the epoxy will stick. Now that we can see where it's coming out from, we'll just glob a bunch of epoxy all over this and try and get some down in there. And that should fix this to a point to where we can actually use it. Now we have to figure out how I'm going to dig all this. Oh, that's still... Oh, well, I guess I don't need to. It's already... it's not clogged up at all. So what we'll do here is we'll squeeze an equal amount of this out, hopefully. No, that's not on that. Well, I think that'll still work. Just might take a little bit longer to set up. Okay, so now we need to kind of mix this up, and I'm going to use a little bit bigger driver here. And once it turns white, then you know you've mixed it enough. Now it might not turn white completely because we're on a brown piece of cardboard, but it's hard to tell on this cardboard, but I think that'll work. We got a chunk there, get that chunk out of there. Alright, so now we can just apply this on here. And you know, you want to apply it rather liberally on all the areas that you sanded down, because you don't want it to leak out through the epoxy. But I think this will get us going. This may be a completely futile effort because this thing may have other issues, but we can't even figure that out unless we have a working flyback that will allow us to have high voltage. So with that being done there, let's use all that we can and kind of stack it here in this corner where the high voltage is coming out. Now this will actually, this should leak down inside there a little bit, and as this sets up we can continue to kind of mold it and move it around and things like that. And I'm going to take a corner of my rag here and get rid of all this off of there just for now. And yeah, this likes to move around on us, so I'm going to work on this for the next hour or so and give it a few minutes to set up to where it doesn't, well, it likes to, when you first apply it, it likes to move and flow, so you kind of have to keep it from doing that for a good 5 minutes or so till it starts to harden enough to where it doesn't start to run. And I want to keep it here in this corner, so give me a little bit of time to kind of make this and mold it to where it needs to be, and then I'll let it set up for about an hour, and then we'll come back and reinstall the flyback. So stand by for a little bit and I'll come back. Alright, so it's been 2 hours and this is now nice and secure. Once you start touching it and don't leave fingerprints anymore, it's set up. So I let this for about 2 hours. It's good to go. I mean, ideally you'd probably want to let it sit overnight, but just for testing it should be okay. So we're going to go ahead and get it reinstalled, but before we reinstall it, I want to talk about how I also replaced this corroded header pin. So I went ahead and just stole a header pin from another chassis and put it in there, because this one I tried to clean it up and it wasn't cleaning up very well, but it's pretty heavily corroded, and I didn't want to reuse it because that'll just cause high resistance and amperage spike and it'll burn things up. So I removed this corroded one and put a replacement one in there from another chassis, and that one is nice and shiny, so no problem there. So I think we can go ahead and get this flyback reinstalled, and then I guess it's going to be time to at least try it. I don't want to spend all the time on this, capping it, reflowing it, everything, if it turns out that this is not a valid solution and there's something wrong with this, and I'm sorry, there's something wrong with this and the position circuit needs to be intact for this to work properly, and there's a missing, it won't work without the missing transformer. I'm just mystified as to why it's been modified like that. Maybe it'll work, I don't know, but I don't want to spend all the time and effort going through and doing all the rework on this if this isn't a valid repair, and that has to be in there and all that stuff. So for now though, when I put this on here, I let it sit for about 3 minutes, and I let all that drip down inside that hole. And then you sit there and kind of constantly motion it, move it around, and use the whatever tool you want to try and slop it back on, because it'll come down from gravity. Put it back up there, put it back up there in the area where the crack is, and the hole is, I should say. And then once it starts to solidify after 5 or 10 minutes, then you can kind of leave it and just set it down and walk away, and gravity won't really affect it anymore because it's starting to harden up. And we'll give it a couple of hours until you touch it and don't leave fingerprints anymore, and then you're good to go. And like I say, I'd probably let it sit for overnight, but for testing purposes here, I'm going to go ahead and just give it a try. So we'll reinstall it, and then I think we'll just go ahead and put it on a tube and give it a try, because there's no other real reason not to. Why is it not going back in? There we go. Okay. And you can see there, I mean, I've got it all plugged up nice and good, so it shouldn't leak high voltage anymore, but whether or not it actually works, that's going to remain the question here. All right, so that is through. And I guess just for the sake of content, we can try it real quick with the anode cup in the glass and just see if we have any leakage, because if we do, then there's no reason to put it on a tube, but if we don't, then we can go ahead and give it a try. So I think that will work. Last one. All right, I never disconnected it from the neck board, so with all that done, I guess we'll test it here, make sure it's not leaking, and if it's not, then we'll put it on a tube and give it a try. I do want to mention that I did not reinstall this thing. I could have put this back in on the Flyback. You know, I could have reinstalled this, but I'd just break off again, and so I'd like, it doesn't really even need to be on there in the first place. So I never disconnected anything from the neck board here, so let's grab our glass. Let's put our anode cup in the glass, and we'll hook up the power again here. And connect our voltage. All right. Turn the fan off, and okay. We'll fire it up here and just see what happens. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I say we're good. I can hear the high voltage sitting here. I don't want to get near it, but the Flyback is on and is working. So yeah. Our patch job has fixed the arcing Flyback. So let's go ahead. There was no load on the circuit, so let's make sure our filter cap isn't charged. So we don't want to handle this if the filter cap is charged. And what we'll do is I'll just use my meter leads here, and we'll touch the. I'm not sure what to go to. We'll go to volts DC. Actually, it should be AC, I think, for the filter cap. And then we will go to the filter cap and just make sure that it's not charged here. Or if it is, we'll just charge it. It had 1.9 volts on it, so okay. Well, I think what we'll do here, since that's resolved, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on a tube and just turn it on and see what happens. I don't want to devote a whole bunch of time to this if there's some other issue. And we're gonna just make sure that it turns on. We get high voltage, we get raster, and if we get raster, then I'll hook up a video signal and see what we get. But as for now, I think we'll just get on tube and just see if it even turns on. So let's do that and go from there. Alrighty, we're all hooked up and connected, ready for power. So let's see what happens when we turn this on, and we'll go from there. 1, 2, 3. Well, it just came on. Got that? And look! I don't understand how this is working without that transformer, but look, it freaking works. Okay, well, I guess it wasn't dead. It had an arcing flyback, and our flyback fix is working. Look at that. So I guess if you have a flyback that's arcing and you can't get a replacement, you know how to fix it now. All right, well, let's turn it off. And I gotta hook up the VGA cable here, and let's do that and see if we can give it a signal, see what it looks like. Okay, I got the VGA cable connected here, and it's running up to a 7/16-1 ELF board or something like that, whatever it's called. Well, let's see what it does with a video signal here. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. And, well, it works. Amazing. It looks fairly good, actually. Nice and crisp. Well, anyway, let's see what happens here. And here's that sticker that says, well, my phone is so bad it won't adjust. But trust me, it says flyback arcing. Anyway, needs some degaussing, but hey, it looks great. Nice and sharp. Good color. It's a little dark, but we can turn it up here. There we go. Nice. Well, is there a digital degauss? I don't know. I don't actually, you know what? I don't even think I have the degauss connected. Yeah, I don't even think, but regardless, let's see if we can do some adjustments here. What do we hit? Status? 37.8 kilohertz. That's good. And page, what's page? Oh, there we go. Look at a lot of adjustments here. H size, pin cushion, adjust. Okay, vertical size is going down. We'll go up. That's working. Select. All right, so all of our buttons work on our remote board. That's fine. And it looks like it's working. So let me do a cap kit, a reflow, and then we'll test it again. I am mystified by this missing transformer. Must be some type of factory mod, but it looks like our replacement transistors, Q4, 414, 415 are good. Our replacement D408, 409 are good, and it's working as advertised. Look at that. Awesome. So yeah, we had the 4 missing components and the hole in the flyback, and this is now back to life. But I need to cap it, reflow it, and then test it one more time, and then we'll call this good. So let me get that done. We'll come back and test it again. Take this off, and if I stick it here, you can see, well, it did say flyback arcing. Oh, it says arc, flyback arc. I didn't get all the, yeah, flyback arc. Not anymore. Okay, so if you have an issue like that, you know what to do, and hopefully it's as successful for you as it was for me. Let me get the rework done. We'll clean it up a bit and test it one last time and see what happens. Actually, let me... Yeah, it's not bad. It does need some adjustment, and this phone never does the actual image justice, but it needs some degauss here, which isn't going to be a big deal. I don't even know if I saw a degauss connect. Oh yeah, it's right there. I didn't hook it up. It's right Well, you can't see it, but it's right there. Right there. Forgot to hook it up. So let me see if I can get this recapped, reflowed, readjusted, and then we'll come back and test it one last time. I need to get the decals connected so that fixes itself. And then we'll see if it looks as good afterward as it does right now, and then kind of consider this complete. So let me do that. I'll come right back. Okay, about 3 hours later, count them, 1, 2, 3 hours later, I am completely done. Cap kit, reflow, inspection, everything checks out. There were a couple of issues. A handful of caps in this area had been previously replaced, and there were 3 of them that were the wrong rating. Let me get my notes here. So C123, which was this guy here. Let's back up a bit here. Okay, C123 is supposed to be a 25 volt 1000, and somebody had a 50 volt 2200. It's supposed to be 50 volt 1000 microfarads. Someone had a 50 volt 2200, so that was problem number 1. Problem number 2 was both of these caps here, C117 and C118. Again, let me back up more, geez. These 2 over here, one of them is supposed to be a 25 volt 1000 microfarad, which is C117. C118 is supposed to be a 250 volt 22 microfarad, but somebody had a 250 volt 47 in there. So that was problem number 2. Problem number 3 was C132, which was this one in here, I think. One of these, so there's 3 50 volt 100s in there, but I think in this position right there, somebody had a 50 volt 220. So that was problem number 3. So 3 caps that were the wrong rating. Now this resistor here, R137, there's supposed to be a 10 ohm 3 watt resistor across there, and obviously it burned up in the past because somebody installed a 7 watt 8.2 ohm resistor. So 10 ohm 3 watt versus 8.2 7 watt. Now, I mean, that's fine, but it was kind of haphazardly installed in there. So I went ahead and mounted it vertically like a tombstone. It's called tombstoning. And then I added another 2.1 ohm resistor in series with it. So when we look at this here, I didn't have a correct 3 watt 10 ohm resistor on hand. So I reinstalled this 8.2 ohm 7 watt along with a 1.2 ohm 3 watt, which equates about 10.2 ohms in circuit here. So I was able to get it back to the correct 10 ohm rating, and I mounted it straight up like this, so it's not touching any of the caps around it, as well as this resistor here. So I was able to fix that fairly well. Otherwise, that was about it. There weren't any other caps that were the wrong rating. A number of them have been replaced, but they were replaced with the right rating. Only those 3 here that were the wrong ratings, probably because they didn't have the correct rating on hand and went with whatever they thought would work. So I'm assuming there were power supply problems or something, because they changed a lot of caps out, probably trying to fix this issue, and then gave up and then robbed these components over here or whatever. I'm not really sure the history, but I also reinstalled the VGA cable in the hole here where it's supposed to go. And yeah, here's all the old caps there, along with these 3 incorrect ones. And I had all the caps on hand that I needed to do this. Fortunately, there's no cap kits available for a 600DX that I could find anywhere on the internet. So I got a little notebook here, and I made a complete cap list. So all the caps for the motherboard, there's 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, and then the neck board has 1.5 pages. So I'll send this information off to Peter at Arcade Parts and Repair. I'll take a couple of pictures for his website reference, and then I'll send him the cap list. So in the future, if anybody has a 600DX, or it's otherwise known as an NT 30, it's also known as an NT something or other. I'll put it in the title of the video. But yeah, and it's all cleaned up. I reseated these 2 chips in the sockets, got those cleaned up with some deoxit and everything. I got the back side all cleaned up and everything after the reflow and the cap kit, and everything still seems to be okay. So, and of course we got our flyback reinstalled, which we tested that. So all right, it's ready now to go back on the tube, and we will see if it still works, if I made any mistakes or put a cap in backwards. I don't think so. I took pictures and corresponded my after work with the pre-work on the pictures, and that's about it. I don't think I mentioned, so I talked about these 4 pots, the VR601 being the horizontal position, the VR602 being the ABL, the VR101 being the B+, and the VR601 being the high voltage adjust. But I didn't talk about what the ratings are. I don't think I mentioned what the ratings were. The VR601 is a 2K. The H-hole pot's a 2K. The ABL is a 50K. The VR101 is a 300 ohms, if you can believe that. That's what the schematic says. And then VR601 down there for the high voltage adjustment is also 2K. Wait a minute, I got that backwards. 401, I'm sorry, here we go again. The horizontal center is VR401. It's 2K, and the high voltage adjust is the 601, which is also 2K. So 2K, 2K, 50K, and 300 ohms according to the schematic. But anyway, I think I forgot to point that out last time. If I did, well, I repeated myself, which I'm known to do a lot. So, okay, I'm gonna get this back on the tube. I'm gonna throw all this stuff away here, and we'll see if it turns on and works and what happens and how it goes. So let's see. Okay, so we are all back on, ready to go. We got our anode, neck, yoke, ground power, video, and remote. Everything is connected. Again, we got our ELF board here, or multi-board here for our video. So let's turn it on and make sure that it still even turns on and make sure nothing explodes, that I didn't put anything backwards or make any solder bridges or cause any other problems. So let's cross our fingers and hope for the best. 1, 2, 3. Okay, at least it came on. Please? Yes. Okay. So far, so good. It's always it's always a little nerve-wracking when you do a cap kit that has like 100 damn caps on it. I think this was like somewhere around 60 something. I'll have to count, but it was a lot. It took me 3 hours. So, okay, and yes, I did hook up the degauss circuit, and now we're much better here on the side. And right away, it's pretty clear. Let's see if I can make adjustments to that focus here. Well, either way, it's glued in place, but I'll adjust it later. The main purpose of this is just to make sure it's still turned on. Again, this little line you see coming down, that's not in person. That's just a camera effect of the refresh rate captured by the phone camera here. But hey, it works. This is much more yellow in person. It's much more... It looks much better in person than through this iPhone camera. So you look at this thing, oh, it looks terrible. No, in person it's really good. The red is nice and vibrant, but in person it looks dim. Or I'm sorry, in person it's nice and vibrant. Through the camera it looks dim. Now I say that because I'm looking through the screen on the iPhone. It may be when we actually look at the video after processing, it may look good, but right now through the screen on the camera or on the iPhone, it looks pretty dim, like the red needs to be turned up, but in person it's glorious. So, okay, successful rebuild of a Neotec 500DX. I'm not sure what the NT number is. I think it's 34 or something or other. I'll put it in the title of the video, but I need to go ahead and re-secure this, the hardware they taped to the arm there. But hey, yeah, we have successfully repaired the flyback. I'm not sure how long it'll last, but at least it's working now. And like I say, you gotta let that epoxy drip down inside the hole, and then you work it around and move it around until it stops dripping from gravity. Once it hardens up, then you can kind of set it in place and mold that, while it's still malleable, mold it into a fashion to where it's kind of beefed up on wherever the hole's at. But yeah, case in point, living proof right in front of you that you can repair a flyback with a hole in it. So anyway, that being said, this is now fixed, and dang, it looks good. I'm going to turn the volume up here just a little bit. And let's see if I can... Oh, let's make sure this still works. I'll make some adjustments off camera as long as this still works. Yeah, it still works. Okay. How do I turn this off? There we go.
Are you ready?
Ready, go!
I can only use one hand here, so. Well, I think we're good to go, so I'll get this all put back together, let the owner of this know that it's all fixed. I'll let it run for a number of hours, make sure nothing explodes and the flyback doesn't get an arc again, and we'll call it good. So thanks very much for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. And there's a lot more on the way, so stay tuned, and we'll see you then.